All right, we're recording. Hey, everybody. This is Sam Dennehy, aka Half-Ass Customs, and this is Half-Ass Presents, the podcast. Our special guest today is Robert Kelly, and he's pretty much known, I guess, in the 187th scale world for building cranes and commercial vehicles. So, Robert, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in the hobby?
Hey, Sam, thanks for having me on. Hello to everybody watching at home. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. My name is Robert Kelly. Maybe the best way to introduce myself is that I obviously am Thomas Kelly's son. That's probably how I'm most well known in the vehicle modeling community. And I live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Big LSU fan. I've pretty much been around models my entire life. I think the joke is that I was in my baby crib. I had a crane model in there, playing around with it. So it's easy to get in the hobby when you're surrounded by fantastic modelers your entire life. And I enjoy it immensely. I love the hobby. I love seeing what everybody else can do. I'm a big fanboy. I look at all the videos and the photos of you guys and your amazing work, and I really enjoy it. And hopefully I can maybe get some more free time on my hands to turn out some good models.
That's awesome, man. So you say you've been in it pretty much your whole life. What draws you to the particular genre of models that you build?
Well, so I guess I would say my genre of models that I tend to lean towards are mining equipment, heavy construction equipment, and mostly cranes. I find them fascinating. I used to work for a heavy hauling crane company, and I was around them, and they're amazing machines. Some of the most, what they can do with hydraulic power and just pure horsepower is pretty incredible. It's what builds our country. I don't know. I've always been drawn to, honestly, anything technological or any kind of modern construction advancement, anything like that. It's very cool to me. I guess what draws me to modeling in general is I've always been interested in meticulous building. I used to really love Legos as a kid, and now I'm advanced into some more serious Legos, if you want to call it that.
Right, more detailed ones.
Right.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I know from being in this hobby, this scale hobby, as long as I have, it seems that most of the collectors and builders lean towards commercial vehicles, definitely. And I've always kind of wondered, why so heavily into that area or that field of modeling. But it does seem like, seeing that, like you said, you were in the business of working in that construction field before. I guess that does definitely help lean you towards those things. So that's pretty neat. Everybody knows that's not really my field. So I really have no stake in the game of how those are built and why people build them and the love and interest they have for them. So it's neat that you, and what I've seen from your dad from the shows I've been to, build those cranes, because those things are amazing. I mean, I'm not a crane guy, but I can see the amount of detail and the amount of time it takes to build those. And you have to have passion, because if you don't, the things wouldn't look nearly as good as you guys make them.
I think you're probably right. You have to have patience and passion for cranes, at least. Just because if you ever try to rig up a Keebler kit or a big crane like that, the real one takes 7-8 hours in 100-degree heat to rig up. It probably takes somewhere about half of that time to rig up a scale crane. It's very, very frustrating. You definitely have to have a love for it to even stick with it.
Your dad. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine. My dad and I actually, it's funny you say that a lot of people are very amazed at the cranes. We're amazed with everybody else's work. Like your vehicles, I love looking at pictures of them. I actually love model cars. I just don't really do much custom. I do some collecting. I mean, it's the only way I'm going to have a Ferrari in my life.
Yeah, most people
have the model. I love seeing other people's work on Facebook and at the shows. It's just amazing when somebody is passionate about something and they fall into a niche, they turn out some just amazing things, whether it be semi trucks, whether it be cranes, whether it be mining equipment, just regular vehicles, commercial vehicles. You know, it's really awesome to see.
Yeah, I will say going to the shows, going to that Amherst show, that opened my eyes to much more than that RPM meet that we go to. Because the RPM meet is very strictly trains and then very little vehicles, and then just very little vehicles altogether. So when I went to the Amherst show and I saw your guys' setup and I saw everybody else's setup, I mean, especially with the Route 187 scale, like you don't even just have to showcase your vehicles or your construction, whatever. You can showcase a whole entire scene to go along with what you build. And that's just amazing, because like if you have like a crane like you guys build, you can literally show everybody that's there, that's, you know, just not participating, but going to the show just to see what's at the show, how all that stuff works. And I know your dad showed me either at the Amherst show or at the RPM show that well, I don't know about all, but the big cranes that you guys build, they actually function. Like they can articulate all the way out, and the wires move, and I don't know what they're called, but I'm going with wires. Everything
Cables,
works.
wires, same
Like,
thing.
yeah, everything works like if it was a real thing without, you know, you would just manually make it work compared to being electrical or whatever. And that blows me away that something that intricate actually works. I mean, I can't fathom it. So to
Yeah,
see it, amazing.
yeah. I mean, I think that I love building modules because that's really what we are as storytellers. Even if it's a standalone model, it does tell a story by itself. But when you can build a module and show, you know, like a car dealership like you have, or if you can show an entire bridge building scene or entire what's going on at the crane yard today, it tells a story.
Right.
People are drawn in. It looks more realistic, and that's what not just vehicle hobby is about. That's what model railroading is about too, is realism. And it's very, very fascinating to be able to tell a story in miniature.
Oh yeah.
It's just something that you don't get an opportunity to do that anywhere else, really, unless you're in Hollywood, I guess.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. And we're not there.
Yeah.
um,
Not even
so
close.
I know going to RPM and going to Amherst, I saw cranes being sold pre-built as like a company built them. And they were going for like the really big ones for, I think, well over 1,000 or just over 1,000, $1,000, that is. So being that you guys build them, how, I don't want to say you start with that kit and make it better, or do you start? How do you start that whole crane thing?
So it really depends. A lot of this is especially with 3D printing now. There's a lot of parts that you can print off of Shapeways or what have you, and kind of kit bash them together, or have a completed kit printed out. But there's still a lot of customization that goes in building those kits. A lot of my dad's cranes are based off of their kit bash from a little bit of scratch built, a little bit of kit bash based on Keebri, mostly Keebri. You can buy pre-built models, and they're getting more and more prominent now as far as cranes go. But back maybe 10, 15 years ago, they really didn't have that. You had a couple big brass models that are, yeah, well over $1,000. And then you had Keebri. And so a lot of his stuff is customized off of that. Most cranes have, especially from the same manufacturer, they have the same specifications. They like to use the same cab because it's cheaper just to keep the cab the same for years and years. There really is a lot of different ways you can go with it. When you basically, I think you start out with saying, what crane would I like to see on my desk? And then you go from there and you say, well, is there a kit or a pre-built model out there that's very similar to what I'm trying to build? And if there is, then you're like, okay, you start with that basic kit, and then you add components as you go to make it as realistic and prototypical as possible.
Interesting. So next question, like I know for myself, I've built for customers and myself probably a total of 20 Ghostbusters cars, and those are 3D printed off a Shapeway. So with you, those are all the same car. So your cranes, how many variations do you guys think, like say you, for instance, have built, or are they sort of based on the same kind of start with, and then you just change little things here and there to make them your own?
Um, Interesting question. So I think that at, at least getting some support stuff on popping up my screen. So at least I, I'll actually say that most of the cranes that my dad and myself build are in our personal collection, and we keep them. We don't usually make them for sale unless it's a personal request from somebody. Now that is starting to change since my dad's retired. He has a lot more time on his hands, so he'll pump out 5 or 6 of the same crane. But
Oh, wow.
there's hundreds of different models. There's hundreds of different variations of models. Models meaning, there is a Liebherr LTM 1300. There's also a 1300-6.2. There's also a 1300-7. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different variations of the same crane that just add different capacities to it, add different functions to the crane, things like that. Yeah, it's a rabbit hole when you go down looking for what exactly. I think maybe if you were building cranes to sell, or if you were building cranes for other people, it's more about what do you see in real life, what's popular. If you kind of get inspired by driving past a site and you see a certain crane, certain model, certain manufacturer, and you look up a spec sheet, try to do some design work in your head, and figure out how you're going to bring that to a miniature life.
So here's an interesting question. Like in the car world, you see say classic car, you see a classic car and you're like, that's a so-and-so made by this company in this year. When you drive by a crane, are you that savvy into knowing who makes it and what year it was made and all that stuff?
Regrettably, I must admit, absolutely. It's not, and it's not even for, at least for my dad, when we drive up to Springfield every year. Hopefully we'll be able to do that again this year. I haven't heard any news about where they're gonna have the show, but I mean,
Hopefully.
it's almost like a big old game of I Spy or whatever it might be. When we pass construction site, we might not know all the technical data, but at least for me, working in the crane industry, I can tell almost immediately. Even if we're coming up on a crane being transported for probably a mile away, we're like, oh, look, that is Link Belt 238 on that low boy up there. And
Oh, wow.
we're pretty accurate with it, I would say. Once you look at enough pictures, once you look at enough real ones, once you take enough pictures, it's just like seeing, like I couldn't tell you the difference, like a 68 and a 69 Mustang Fastback. You know what I mean? Like I probably couldn't tell you the difference just by looking at one. But you might be able to, or you can tell me the difference between a Bel Air or a 57 to a 58. You know what I mean?
Right.
But with cranes and other mining equipment, construction equipment, we had that little, what's the word I'm looking for? That nerd ability, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's the same thing with cars. I mean, car
Right.
people have it, and if you have a love for it, I mean, you should hopefully know enough about it to at least be able to tell some of them, if not all of them. But that's neat though, because it's one thing it goes to the fact of your passion for building, because you do know the logistics of a lot of them, if not all of them. You do know, like what you said, when you see it, exactly what it is. And you would hope that the person building something so technically involving as those cranes are, that they would know what they are and how they
Right.
work. And because like me, if I were to go ahead and build a crane, I don't think I would. If you told me, hey, I want to give you a challenge, I would be lost from the very start, because I don't know how high it's supposed to raise. I don't know what the load capacity is. I don't know how wide it's supposed to, I wouldn't know any of that. So yeah, it's the same thing with your cranes as with cars and vice versa. So that's neat though. That's neat that you know that much stuff and that you have the love for that stuff. Um, so let's take a little side break from the cranes and just go with the commercial vehicles or commercial construction vehicles. What other stuff do you build and you have a passion for? Because we
Um,
know you like the cranes, obviously, you and your
right,
dad, but
obviously, that's what we're talking about, you know. But I think both of us also have the interest in, like you said, pretty much almost any piece of machinery I see, I have some sort of I'm drawn to it in some sort of way. If I'm driving past a road construction site, just to know how the road is built with each different equipment and their function and their role in building the road or the bridge or what have you, it's fascinating. I mean, maybe you can see behind me, I'm not sure, but anything Caterpillar, I love it. I love looking at pictures of Caterpillar machines. I would love to get back to doing some custom work and making some nice Caterpillar models. It's a fascinating company. I've read books on their history. It just, to me, machines is just like a love of cars, a love of the history of cars and vehicles, or the history
what
of
makes America,
railroads.
basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is what makes the world what it is today, as far as physically. And it's very fascinating. And as far as that is concerned, I kind of bounce around. Right now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you can see that. This is my
Yeah.
latest project I've been working on for a while. Some of you might already know about it. It's a material transfer vehicle that I've been drawing up in CAD and trying to get a 3D printed test and hopefully make that available for people, so they can. Actually, I think I have one right back here. A little prototype model without the conveyor belt, of course. But it really just kind of that one came specifically from my dad saying, "Oh, I'm trying to do an entire road construction scene for a module for Springfield. I don't have this. They don't make it. They don't make the model of it unless it's 1/50th scale. So, find a 1/50th scale model or drawings or pictures, schematics, and then go off of there and try to make it come to life. And then I'll be honest, I kind of drive myself crazy sometimes with the amount of projects that are in my head that I would like to do. Because there's
Oh, yeah.
and when I see, when I'll watch the Nuremberg show, like a review of all the 150 scale models coming out, and I will almost salivate. I'm just like, man, those guys have so much cool stuff. Yeah, they're hundreds of dollars per model, but they're very cool stuff, and I want to bring that to 187th if I can. But that's what I think I like about 187th. Really, is what keeps me in the scale 100% committed to the scale. Is that we don't have everything commercially available that I can just throw money at it and bring it to my shelf. Sometimes you have to work for it. Sometimes you have to go out of your way, make custom drawings or custom builds or whatever it may be. And I think that keeps it fresh and interesting to keep coming back with new projects.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, is what keeps you in this scale compared to other scales that might have more product out there? But that's a great answer. That's
Yeah, I mean,
that's
in 1/50th scale, you can buy almost any commercial crane. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of them are available in 1/50th scale in beautiful die cast and all that. Just beautiful models. But that to me is less of a challenge. Like, having a collection and being a model are a little bit different.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, that 100% correct, because collectors are, if you're just a collector, you're just collecting it because you like it, or you don't have it, or possibly you want to resell it, or whatever. But the builder does collect as well, but he builds because they don't have it already, and
Right.
they want to make it their own version instead of just buying, like, just say like one company makes like 4 different paint styles of that same vehicle, and that's all they have, but they're 4 different ones. The collector's just going to buy all 4 to have all 4,
Right.
when a builder's going to literally repaint it, probably make it their own version, something that they liked better or different. So that's pretty neat. That's cool that's why you're in this scale compared to other scales, because that's kind of why I'm in this scale. Because when I joined this scale hobby, I realized there was very few people doing what I do, if any, and I knew how to do it. I could pull it off a lot easier than say some people that don't normally build like that stuff. So just like you guys, like if you gave me the opportunity to build a crane, don't have anything to build that crane. I would have nowhere to start, and you guys have that background, that ingenuity, the knowledge, and all that stuff to pull it off. Probably have tons of parts everywhere that you can throw at one crane to, do it with.
Right. I would love for people to see exactly how many boxes of spare parts, Keyrie parts, my dad has. It's actually mind-boggling to see all the spare parts. There's bits and pieces of $100 cranes that is laying all over the place because he took half of it to make something new.
Oh, wow.
It's very ridiculous walking through there. I think I get the sense that you want to build a crane, Sam. We're going to have to get you a model. We're going to have to figure out a project for you. Maybe a simple Keyrie kit to start. You can paint it.
Yeah, make it simple.
It already has hydraulics on it, but it has a double tilt suspension, so you got something to work with.
I'll tell you what, just like when I first started this scale, somebody pressured me, not in a bad way, but pressured me into building a big rig. So I built the big rig, all custom style, no roof, just the front window, slammed to the ground with big old 30-inch rims on it, whatnot. And I built it my way. So I have a feeling if I were to build a crane, I would figure out different wheels to move those tracks that maybe had spokes in it or something. Gold spokes to look like a lowrider. Put some sparkly metal flake paint all over it.
Or if it's a mobile crane, you could slam it to the ground also and have it lift the disco ball. I don't know.
Yeah, that's so funny you say that, because Ken Patterson from What's Neat This Week asked me at last year's RPM meet if I'd ever build a train, and I didn't really have any fancy to build one, but I thought, I got this dummy engine, so why don't I try and do something with it? So I made that hot rod diesel engine and put some lowrider sparkle paint on it and chromed everything out. I could do that with the crane.
All right, we're gonna hook you up. I have to do some little thinking on what you should do.
Yeah, I think everybody would hate it, but
no, I doubt
all the purists out there.
You might get some weird looks for some people, but
I was actually, it's crazy. I put my hot rod diesel engine on. I forget what his name was, his module, because on my modules I didn't have any train track on there for it to sit on, and because it was on somebody else's module, I didn't see anybody's reaction when they looked at it because my modules were so far away from his, and I didn't get. I don't even know if anybody noticed it because he had so much stuff on his module, probably kind of hid behind a lot of his stuff. But this next year in January, and hopefully we get to go up there, I'll have my own track, and I'll have that on there, and I'm gonna have my modules on the same table as the rest of my display stuff, all my cars, so I'll get the full reaction of all the crap I bring up there.
Right.
To see what people thought, but I
wouldn't call
thought
it
the
crap.
same thing. Well, no, it's not crap. But
No,
I thought the same thing. I thought the purists were going to think, God, he just ruined that engine. What was wrong with him? And that's kind of what I was hoping people would react about.
I would say at the railroad meet, they might have that reaction. But as far as vehicles go, you definitely, I believe you have the most unique skill set, and you bring the most unique eye-turning models to the show.
It's definitely what they call eye candy. I mean, it looks like Skittles all over the table. Sparkly Skittles. That's cool, Robert. You gave me a lot of insight and knowledge of stuff I didn't even know about. I know, I'm not gonna lie, talking to your dad, he's not you. You're younger, you have more enthusiasm about stuff. Your dad, not saying anything bad, but he's older. He talks slower. He's very mellow when he talks, so
Yeah.
there's not a ton of emotion. So when he does talk to me, he loses me very quick. You haven't lost me at all. I'm actually very curious about this stuff, even though, in all honesty, I don't care a lot about that because it's not like what I like. But you haven't lost me at all. I'm actually very curious to hear you talk about it, and I guess because of the way you present it, your passion about it, probably helps me, a non-construction vehicle person, stay enthused about it, stay
Right. And
involved.
I think, like I said earlier, it's just like from what you just said, our perspective, when we see a bunch of custom semi trucks, or a bunch of like your collection, or a bunch of any different type of model, even just model railroading in general, not just vehicles, but model railroading. Yes, we don't have that same kind of love or passion for that niche group of it, but we have a ton of respect and reverence, and we know exactly how much work went into it, and we just like love looking at it because it's something new to us. That no,
Right.
am I ever going to be a custom model car builder? No, just a collector and a looker and a picture taker. But I still love looking at them. I definitely love or enjoy almost every aspect of the scale model world as far as at least for sure.
That's really cool. So, being that you have the love for the modeling, we were saying a little bit earlier about your 3D CAD designing and printing. Um, how so I have a 3D printer myself. My son bought it for me right before Christmas. I haven't learned how to use it. The
Okay.
whole idea of taking something pre-designed that isn't um, already 187 scale baffles me. I can't shrink it down. If I do shrink it down, it's a dot, which is way too small because I
Yeah.
need it to be like this big, and it ended up being this big. How did you, I guess, figure it out to get the dimensions right to what you needed? I mean,
So I actually, most of my models I draw, I don't know if you're getting you're getting a pre-drawn design and then you're trying to shrink it, or
correct.
okay. Well, that's just going to have to do with the ratios. Like, I mean, there's a chart that I can send you to look up what, what multiplier or divider you need to increase or decrease your scale ratio to provide you the right dimensions. But most of what I do is from scratch. And so I just draw it to the real dimension in scale. I go off of millimeters. I do a little conversion and figure out the right dimension. I draw it exactly how many millimeters long I want it in real life. That's how I draw it. And then that way I don't have to do any conversion or shrinking, and I print it out or send it off to you.
That's that's awesome. Yeah, that would be that'd be cool to have. Yeah, send that to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll
um,
send it to you. There's a whole article on it.
because I know Joseph, there's a guy named Joseph on our Facebook group, and he's been trying to help me as best as he can. And it's still, I was talking to uh, somebody last night doing an interview, and I said, I feel like my brain is much older than I am because I'm at the stage of my brain where it's like I don't want to learn nothing new. Just give me my flip phone that's not a smartphone and let me use that the rest of my life. Because the 3D printing, it just, I want it to be more simpler. I want it to be like 2 touches, there you go, done.
Right. I think it's getting there. I mean, it's a complicated, depending on which type of 3D printing you're using. It's a very complicated procedure. You might have a filament printer. Is that what you have? It looks like weird string, or
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
So that one's a little bit rougher on the output of the product, and a little bit more what's the word, inaccurate, or might.
Correct, right.
The printer I have actually is the same one that Dana. Shout out to Dana Stratton. He has the same printer that I do, and I actually think they're coming out with. They already came out with a pro version, and now they have a bigger version, and they're just getting better and better and easier and more accessible. They're actually relatively cheap. The resin's relatively cheap, but it is a complicated process. It's never perfect. You have to be a troubleshooter if you want to get it right. And it does take some patience, some trial and error. It's hard to get into. Of course, you could also just pay a good bit of money to get it printed on Shapeways or some other 3D printing service. But
That's what I end up doing.
It's very high. It's very high cost, that service they provide.
Yeah.
I think it's going to continue to get more accurate, smoother surface finishing, and it's going to be getting cheaper just as time goes by.
Yeah, I'm kind of at the point to where like I want to be able to shop for the product on Shapeway, click it on my computer, and then upload it to my printer, and then just print it from that design I picked. That's what I'm wanting. I want it to be that easy because I don't want to do no mathematical shrinking, enlarging, and test fitting. I don't want to do none of that. I just want to pick the design and then tell my printer to print it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm sure there's some holdbacks on. I don't know if it'll ever be that easy, just because people's. Well, no, it could actually happen. I could see it happening. I was more or less thinking that once you download the design, that you could just print infinite copies. But there's probably a way that Shapeways can make it that easy for somebody with the right printer.
They probably won't, but yeah, it would be
no,
awesome.
Why would they weigh money?
Yeah, because the designs that you're having them print is ever so going higher and higher by like every half a year, raising like another $10 or something.
Right, and who knows with this with the entire pandemic going on, but I have heard from a couple people that Shapeways will most likely be introducing a newer material, which is supposedly a better surface quality finish, but it's cheaper. So
oh, wow.
We have hope. We have hope still, but now you got to save up in your piggy bank if you want something nice off Shapeways.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, like those Ghostbusters cars, each one on its finest finishes are like around $35, and then you're spending $10 on shipping. It's like a flat rate to ship it, and that's $45 for one unpainted car.
Right, and that's why with my models that my prototype for my material transfer vehicle was printed on Shapeways, but I've been trying to print on my personal printer because for Shapeways, that order was almost $150.
Oh, wow!
For the entire thing. Now, there's some things I could do to get it cheaper just on Shapeways, but I could probably print the same thing if I could figure out how to print it on my printer accurately and have good repeatability. It'd be less than probably $60 in resin. Like probably not even.
Wow!
That. And that's my biggest problem with it, and getting it out there for people to have access to models like that is. I don't want people paying an arm and a leg on Shapeways if there's a better way to do it.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I figured too. Like I figured if it could get that simple, and I did get myself, say, a resin 3D printer, which has such a better quality of print, that if I made something people wanted in demand, that I wouldn't charge an arm and a leg either because of how much Shapeway is. And if, say that you buy that bottle of resin, and it cost you $20 to $30, but that one bottle was able to make you like $400 worth of product. Why ask for so much more money? Because you already made pretty good money just off of that one bottle. Right. So there's no sense in raising the price.
And I guess that's where you get a fine line between a business, a money-making side business, or like me. I'm not trying to really profit from any of my designs that I end up finishing and coming up with. It's more or less, I need the model. Right. I design the model for myself, and then why not make it available to everybody? I mean, it's not about the money at that point. I got the product that I wanted, and also made it available for everybody else. But yeah, I mean, you kind of want to definitely make sure that you cover. I mean, if you're taking a $30 bottle of resin and you're turning out 100 cars at $4 a piece, like you said, $400, you already paid for your printer right there. And,
right.
why you
Well,
can
that's
charge less than $4, you know?
yeah. Well, that's like the Ghostbusters car. I definitely tell everybody that asks me anything about it. I give them the link to the Shapeway, uh, product. That way, if they don't want me to make it, they can go ahead and make it themselves. I tell them who makes the decals, and I give them their link, and I break down everything and give it to them. And then I say, but if you don't want to do any of that work, I can just do the work for you, and then you can pay me to do it, and it's this much
Right.
money.
Yeah.
But yeah, same thing. I want to give them the opportunity so they're not wasting their money if they don't need to on me. They could just do it themselves.
Yeah. Are you tired of building Echoes yet? Ecto.
Um, so here's the funny thing. When I built the very first one and I put lights in it, I didn't put the lights in it. John Howard did that. And as soon as he was done with that, he said, I'm never going to build another one of these Ecto cars again because of the amount of lights was in it. So I was like,
Right.
okay, that's fine, because I only plan on making one. And then I got so many people IM me like, hey, I want one, I want one. And I was like, well, let me put out this price that I hope nobody will say yes on. And
They
then they
say
said yes on
yes.
it. So I
Yeah.
was like, darn it, now I have to find another company to do it. And East Coast Circuit decided to
Yep.
take on the chore, and they've been my go-to ever since, which
Yeah.
they will
That's
be
a.
on an upcoming show.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
They've actually been one of my favorite booths to visit at the Amherst show every single year. I think that's the future of the hobby because,
Oh yeah.
eventually there's going to be a flooding of all these 3D designs that are available to build models with. I mean, there's still going to be room for creativity and custom builds. But then what's the next step up from that? Well, the next step up is obviously lighting. It adds such a huge element to think about the Ecto and then think about it lit up. Totally different. And then think about sound. And then
Right.
going even further than that, you're talking about what they do a lot in Germany is RC. And that's just kind of the epitome of the hobby, right? I mean, you have let's say you have a train layout, you have an engine, a locomotive. It looks completely realistic. It's 100% prototypical. It's weathered nicely. It's beautiful scenery. What's the most impressive thing about it? It moves. It actually moves. You can drive it around, and that is what I think the epitome of the hobby could be one day. And I would love to see more people get into
It's
that.
it's there. Shout out to Miniature Wonderland in Germany.
Yeah,
I mean, that place is a living, breathing machine of moving parts and flashing lights everywhere.
right. I've actually kind of started planning on learning German just because of all. And
Well,
I guess it's Wunderland. I don't know.
oh, yeah, I'm using the American term.
Right.
But FYI, they do speak English there, so you don't have
Oh
to
yeah.
learn too much German if you don't want to, but it does
M-
definitely help.
Actually, one of there's several reasons. Number one is a lot of the great crane modelers are in Germany. A lot of the
Okay.
great RC modelers are in Europe, um, and a lot of them do speak German or Dutch or whatever it may be. But also, just specifically for me, two or three of the world's biggest manufacturers of cranes are German. Their manuals are all in German.
Oh, wow.
So it does help out a lot. Actually, I got a kit at the show from Dan Goins that was a German model. I can't pronounce the name of the company, but it's like an old cable dump truck. And all the instructions are in German. I took that as a pretty fun challenge to learn a new language while figuring out how to put this thing together.
Right, yeah. I mean, so obviously I don't know crane kits, much less most commercial vehicle kits of any kind, besides unless it's a truck, diesel truck, car, whatever. But like those kits that come in an actual kit, do the cranes come with like a step-by-step instruction on how to build them?
Yes,
I hope so.
Keebri kits, they come with the instruction guide. Like I said, other than that, if you order something off of Shapeways, it probably doesn't have instructions with it.
Right. It doesn't have any paperwork but a receipt
Right.
on how much they made you
there's some
pay.
other people out there like like old Sheepscott models. They have some crane models, and they come with instructions mostly.
So even though it's in German, you can still, for the most part,
Oh
see
yeah,
the
go by
pictures
picture.
of the
Yeah.
instructions. That
Yeah,
helps then.
exactly.
That
And
helps.
but I think nowadays, if you wanted to, like, if you were going to start with either a kit or a pre-built model, I mean, if they're pre-built, um, they don't give you instructions, but you can still take them apart and paint them up lime green and bag them. You know what I mean? So
Right, right. That's funny because there's some illustrations online like Facebook or just the internet in general of construction vehicles or I've seen one with a tank where they take like a illustration, a drawing of a tank, and they make it into a lowrider by putting the lowrider spokes as the wheels or whatever they call them to turn the tracks. And I think, how stupid is that? But how cool would it be to actually create a model of that? And if you send me, or if I end up getting a crane of some kind, I cannot promise it won't have a spoke wheels to turn those tracks.
listen, you want to put spinners on a crane? That's perfectly fine.
I, it's so stupid too because I look at those construction vehicles that they're turning into like lowriders or just custom versions of them, and I think the idea of it seems so stupid to me, but it's stupid enough to where I want to actually try it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't I don't know.
It's definitely an eye turner for sure.
Yeah, it'll get looks, and I think it'll get a lot of disgusting looks, like this stupid kid, and I'm an old man or something. Like, what is he thinking? Um, but anyways, Robert. So what you were saying a little bit earlier about the RC world. So is that the next step for you, the RC side of this hobby?
Yes. As soon as I get financial approval from my wife, I
Right.
really want to get into the RC side of the hobby. I spend a lot of times. I'm in several Facebook groups with the RC Micro Model Bow in Germany. They have some just amazing stuff. I mean, but I'm not trying to. They do make some starter kits as well, but it's very difficult to get into. There's a lot to it if you're going to do a custom one. Like if you buy a DOS 87 kit or something like that, then there's some kind of instructions, or actually there's probably YouTube videos on how to assemble, how to get it functioning. But to do your own custom model, there's a lot to it. There's um, motor placement. Just you have to make an electromechanical diagram of what you want your model to do and how
And
you're going to,
especially for like a crane. Yeah,
especially
because they
for
don't.
cranes.
Yeah.
There's actually one project I'm following very closely on Facebook of this guy that's doing an entire hydraulic crane with independent steering on every axle. It raises up. It's completely functional. Even the outriggers function. And if you look at the design aspect of it and everything that went into just the base of it, it's absolutely crazy to think that is possible to do. And it's very complicated, especially with a crane. Crane's a complicated machine, has lots of moving parts.
Right.
But we're gonna work on it. We're gonna get it done. And it's just, and then on top of that, then you have a programming side of it. Like
Oh yeah.
like you plug everything up and automatically you can take a controller and control it. You have to make sure it's wired correctly, programmed correctly. There's a lot to take into account for, but I think it's the ultimate challenge. It's just like to have a crane on your table, be able to go in, set up, and make a lift. That's just, to me, that would be the ultimate goal in crane modeling.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially when you think about like the I think it's more European people that focus on this aspect of the train modeling world, but when they do carnival scenes and every single carnival ride is moving, it has the lights and everything, and it looks like an actual carnival is really happening minus the people walking around. So if that could be like the next step in our hobby is to have everything movable, yeah, it would make literally a miniature world come to life
Right,
because we already have the miniature world. We just need it to
right,
come to life now.
right.
That's a neat concept. I don't need that to be done on my end. I'm happy with just setting the car down and saying, "Look at what I made."
Yeah, exactly.
I was honestly, I was surprised that I even got any of them to light up. But now that I do have them lit up, I only want the fancy ones to light up. I don't care about the normal everyday cars that I'm building. Just
Right,
need the
exactly.
eye-catching ones that'll blow your mind, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know how
even
much
need the Ghostbusters car to drive. The
after
heck with that.
after all the LEDs and wires in there. I'm not sure how much room is left in the Ecto, but you, I, dude, it might be worth looking into. It'd be really cool to be able to drive your Ecto around with the lights and the siren going off. Or
Well, little FYI on the siren, that's actually a big, huge speaker, like this big, stuck in the firehouse because
right.
it's too big for the car. But I think if you could take like a possibly an N scale, maybe even
Yeah,
an HO scale, sugar speaker or whatever, cube speaker or whatever they're called, it could possibly fit in there with the wiring of the lights, but I'm not gonna find out. Somebody else could find out. With the 20 cars I've built for customers, let them figure that out.
yeah. Fair enough.
But I don't really want that thing to move neither. I think because like when I started in modeling, I started building 1/25th scale cars like that
Mhm.
big, and those weren't RC back in the 90s. Those were all just, as I guess the new term is it now, it's static.
Yeah. Mhm.
So it just sits there. And that's because my brain doesn't want to learn anything new. I'm stuck in that still 90s time frame of building. I wanted to sit there. I wanted to just show you a scene and done. I'm finished with it. After it tells you the story, I'm good. I don't need it to
Yeah,
move.
and that's perfectly fine too. Static models are just as cool to me as something that actually moves around. They just cost a few $100s less.
Right. And no, I don't even mind that they move. I don't want mine to move. I don't mind anybody else's moving,
Right,
definitely.
right.
I haven't been to that Wonderland yet, but I was a couple 100 miles away from it like 5 years ago, and that's right when they were advertising their grand opening or something. Or at least on mass media.
Right.
That's
Mhm.
that was about that time frame, and I was like, I gotta go there, and it just wasn't in the cards that trip, but
Yeah,
hopefully in the next trip.
it's always been a goal for me to go visit that, and also to, while I'm there, try to maybe schedule it around attending the Nuremberg Toy Fair, which
Oh, that would be
happens a
cool.
week or two after our Springfield show. And that's one of the biggest toy fairs on the planet, model fairs on the planet. So I
Yeah.
definitely up there on my bucket list of things to do.
Well, cross our fingers. Hopefully one day,
Yeah,
one year we can do it.
yeah. I don't know about anytime soon.
Well, Robert, I don't try to end every episode this way, but some I do. Some for our younger builders. Um, do you have any words of advice for anybody, say, younger than us or the same age of us, or just anybody new getting into this hobby? Because what they're going to quickly find out is about 90% of us are construction commercial vehicle collectors and builders. So being that you are one of these people, any advice, any information you want to give out maybe?
I hate giving advice just because I'm not even 30 yet. So we have we have a few modelers like Tom Hart and um, Radisson. I believe his name's Radisson. I met him once before. We have a couple of young faces in the hobby. Not as much as I would like. I would love to bring more on board. I'm not 100% sure how to do that. Um,
Yeah,
but
me neither.
they put out fantastic work, and I love looking at their stuff, and I hope they enjoy looking at mine. And it's just all about, as long as you have a liking for something, it's usually pretty easy to be motivated to do it. I find trouble with motivation myself, but you just gotta sometimes put down one project and go look at something else, or um, go and look at everybody else's work online. And that, if that doesn't like light a fire under you, then maybe something's wrong. I think the biggest key is patience, keeping motivation, and not being afraid to. Me, I'm a perfectionist. I don't really want to put something on a table that's not perfect, and I hate when I have to do it. But it's not all about being perfect. If your model is pretty good, that's better than somebody that didn't try to model at all. And it's pretty cool that you're able to make that. You should be proud of your work, and you should definitely just try to keep getting better. I mean, these master modelers. I mean, William Radcliffe and things like that. They didn't just start when they were 19 or 20 years old and turn into a master builder. They worked for 30, 40 years at perfecting their craft, and now look at them. They make some of the best molds I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Well, that's still good advice though, because I mean, some people can get discouraged pretty easy if
get
you're just
burnt
starting
out.
out. So
And
yeah,
I've definitely taken my fair share of breaks from the hobby. I would even say the past 3 months, with work being so busy that we're back able to visit schools and things like that, that I have been not modeling very much at all. And I think that this video that we're making right now is going to inspire me to, maybe put down my new video game and go build some models, because that's what I like to do also. And hopefully I end up being able and motivated to make more time for my hobby in the future.
it's priorities.
Right. Oh yeah.
Get
Things
them
come up
right,
in
will
life.
you?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just important that you never, if you get discouraged, give it a break, let it rest for a little bit, let it marinate in your mind, and then come back to it. I know a few people that just they just give up on the hobby too easy, or they're just like, I'm just going to sell everything because I'm not interested anymore. Well, then they turn around and it turns out they're
Yeah,
interested. They
I
sold
think
stuff.
I think we all know people like that.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, it was a pleasure talking to you about
Oh yeah, same.
your side of the hobby, because I don't know nothing about it, but now that I talk to you, I feel like I know a lot more, and I strangely feel like there's a new model going to be coming into my life that I'm gonna have to try to make my own version of. So, Robert, it was a pleasure talking to you. I think that a lot of people that are going to be watching and just listening to this will be pretty engaged in what we're talking about, because, like I said
I just hope we
earlier,
don't bore them to death.
well, man, hey, I thought I was going to be, and not to say it in a bad, and I know it's going to come out in a bad way, but I thought I was going to be bored, because what you guys build is nothing about what I look
Right.
forward to building. I don't really look at construction vehicles or cranes and go, God, those are awesome. God, I got to learn how to build that.
Yeah.
But listening to your enthusiasm on it and your passion for it, I definitely think that people will be engaged in listening to this, because you have that passion. And I think in the modeling world, anybody that likes models, if you hear somebody having a passion for something, it'll keep them wanting to listen, because it's the enthusiasm for the model that is being expressed. And I
Right.
think
I
that is
certainly hope so.
contagious.
I mean,
Yeah.
like people outside the model, because the best way to explain our hobby is to probably start with scale trains. And
Right.
when I tell, toy trains, nah, that's for kids and stuff like that. And then I show them some pictures. Maybe they look at my dad's layout or his collection, and it's very, very hard to look at stuff like that and not be somewhat impressed about what somebody can make with a lot of patience, a lot of time, and just totally bring the real world into a miniature version.
Well, like I started
I'm
this
fascinated
off
by
with
that.
your cranes. I mean, that's the same thing. It's not my thing, but I am so impressed to see what you and your dad make. I mean, I would never even think in my head ever that why in the first place you would build it, and then second, the fact that you continued to build it, and then third, that you finished it, and then it actually works. That's what really blows me away. Like, I would build it, not have none of it move, and just there for looks to say, hey, this thing raises 5 feet in the air, and it could, if I made it, pick stuff up, but you're not going to see that from me. But you guys, it's cool to watch you guys talk about it and then show that it works. That's like the big step in your building, is what you guys make actually works, and you demonstrate it at the shows, and it's really neat. So Robert, this was a pleasure. Hopefully maybe when you build something new or finish something that you like to talk about, maybe we can do another video and we can, talk about more stuff.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I think
vehicles.
I assumed that was kind of the way you were going to go with this podcast series, is you make your rounds around the community. Whoever wants to talks, and then we're going to revisit and talk about what's new. Or, I mean, definitely, I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate us having this pretty lengthy discussion. I hope everybody else enjoyed listening to us babble on about our enthusiasm for the hobby. But I mean, I can tell you, even right now, I motivated myself. I'm enthused right now to go finish a model as soon as I get off of here after I eat dinner. And I think this is I think the podcast idea is great. I think that, especially with people being at home and something to listen to, something to keep you in touch with because we're all friends. It's a big community. And you don't get to see them but once, maybe twice a year. So it's really cool.
True.
Familiar faces and hear what they have to say and see their models and their progress. And I know you said you're going to work on your video editing skills, so
right.
I'm sure the videos will just get better.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping. To have like photos of the model builders builds overlay on top of the audio.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But it's not there yet. But once it gets there,
you're gonna get it.
You'll know
it. Get it. Yep.
Yeah. All right, Robert. Well, we're gonna end this video. And we'll hopefully have you back maybe soon, maybe not, but we'll have you back. I mean, if you're willing.
That's up to the producer.
Do it. Right. Well, you're on the list.
Okay.
How's that?
Good. Short call list.
Well, I'm going to end the video. The Zoom will obviously still go, but I'll end the video. So I'm going to sign off. Everybody, this was a great interview with Robert Kelly. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more videos. Until then, y'all have a good night.